Guys, the Bowers and Wilkins PI7 got a spanking from us on their first generation. Here's what we said. And we look forward to the next iteration of these buds. Good luck.
Have they got the luck they deserved? And are we still biased and horrible reviewers?
Well, we're DHRME. Disco, hip-hop, reggae, music, entertainment.
Okay, spoiler alert. This generation is quite the step up. Starting with the case, similar to Gen 1. Not tiny, but it's nice and flat, making it pocketable. It also has a huge button which can be used to check battery life and the retransmission feature. And no, it's not the same button as the pairing button. That one's tiny.
Okay, that big button can be used for two things. Number one, you can make your older devices wireless now. Just connect the included USB-C to 3.5mm cable to your older audio source, press that big button for 3 seconds, and the case will transmit the audio to your earbuds. This helps you repurpose your old audio gear. This worked well, except if the buds were too close to the case.
And number two, you can do the retransmission shenanigans again, but if you don't want to use the buds, you can have the audio transmitted to a pair of Bowers and Wilkins headphones. A niche use case, but ingenious nonetheless. More on how these buds actually sound in a bit.
There's nothing really to grip on these buds, so taking the buds out of the case isn't the easiest. And when you do succeed and put them in your ears, you might feel a little like Frankenstein's creature. But just a little. These are kinda chunky and err on the side of a better seal than a super comfortable fit. You get silicone tips in 3 sizes, and we found out that these kinda left our ear holes feeling violated after even shorter lengths of time. An objective fact is the nozzle size, which you see here on the screen. But comfort is also subjective, and our ears are a single data point, or 4 data points.
Speaking of single, you get touch controls and you can single tap either bud to play, pause, double triple tap for track control, long press for the ANC toggle and voice assistant. No volume controls of any kind to be found here. And what about customizing all that tapping? Well, much like our segueing skills, it's kinda hopeless. No customization in that Bowers and Wilkins app. And that app, Bowers and Wilkins, requires you to sign in to use it. Really? Such an expensive product and you still want my data? While the software leaves a lot to be desired, the Bowers and Wilkins is very well rated against showers and lint things with an IP54 rating.
The battery life, however, is very ordinary. To begin with, you do get wireless charging in addition to the USB-C port. For numbers, the stated battery life is 5 hours with the ANC on. And how many hours and minutes did the Bowers and Wilkins last? In our tests, we ended with a measly 3 hours and 45 minutes with ANC on. And there's something funny that happens with these tests too. One bud still had 50% left in the tank while the other one was dead. We thought this was weird, so we repeated the test, and the second time there was 55% left in the left bud, so that's consistent. So what's going on?
So let's dig into this. You remember like in 2018 when we used to review buds, we used to talk about a master-slave architecture. Well, it's 2023, so we're going to call it primary-secondary architecture now. But we really shouldn't be talking about it at all. Every time you pull these buds out of the case, one of them gets assigned as the primary, as the other bud connects to the primary one. You can test this. Play music, move these buds apart, and voila, one of them stops playing. It's clear they're using a very old tech platform for these buds, and this leads to some hiccups in real life. For example, if you want to play music with just one bud and put the other one back in the case, there's a gap as the connections need some time to re-establish. So you can't share buds with another person unless you're uncomfortably close to them.
Remember we said that this generation was better than Gen 1? Well, yes, it absolutely is. But at tier B in our noise cancelling rankings, these are just about par. If ANC is absolutely unimportant to you, these are okay. But then why pay so much for these buds in the first place? We'll talk about price and whether you should buy these at the end of this video. To be transparent, we bought this with our own money. But staying on transparency, the transparency mode on the buds is average. There's a slider which is pretty much useless at the lowest setting. Putting it up to max also pumps out much more white noise. Now we put this at tier C, similar to the Bang & Olufsen X, but there's a world of difference. The X may have lower volume, but it's still quite clear, especially at the higher end of the frequency range, whereas the Bowers & Wilkins is a bit louder, but it scoops out the low end and the high end, due to which you get this kind of nasal effect on the sound, making voices sometimes unintelligible. A bit like all those links in our description.
And there's this weird thing about transparency that Bowers and Wilkins has. It's not an alternative to ANC, but an option on top of ANC. You cannot even enable transparency mode from the buds, only the app. It's either on all the time or never. That ANC toggle we talked about earlier, well, that toggles between ANC on and off only. And the ANC in the app is also confusing. You can toggle between ANC and off, or auto ANC and off. Time for the popsicles, icicles, and test.
Pop, pop, popsicle. Ice, ice, icicle. Test, test, testing. 1, 2, 3. Wow, fuck man, impressed. The PI7 S2 did a fantastic job in both noisy and windy situations. The samples are actually representative and it really shows how it was to actually use these for a conversation. If the noise and wind was very strong, you could hear it a little bit, but impressive. If only the fuckman controls were impressive too. Then we would have had almost the perfect buds for calling. You only get the ability to answer and hang up, guys. No volume or mute controls directly from the earbuds. Also, no side tone adjustability in the app.
If you pair with multiple devices, you can switch connections by pulling a connection from a previously paired device. Worked well. You can also switch connections from the app where you'll find a list of devices. There's no multi-point though, meaning it cannot stay connected to more than one device at a time, something we now expect at much lower prices. There's also a wear sensor that is sometimes too eager, but it works well in general. If you don't like how it works, you can disable it in the app.
Well, credit where it's due. Bowers and Wilkins gives its audio products a very consistent kind of sound. aptX adaptive and a big-hearted sound signature. It's absolutely fun and still quite detailed. Spiky treble, big bass that hits hard and a super fun sound. To the extent where you can kind of see where the fandom for this iconic brand comes from. Especially at lower volumes, I think these are one of the nicest sounding buds at lower volumes. They also particularly work well for some genres of music. Having said that, we found ourselves wanting to turn down the bass a touch and manage some treble peaks which we didn't love, but unfortunately there are no choices to customize the sound in the app. Forget about fancy features like hearing detection and ear canal analysis. There aren't even basics like EQ presets in the app, let alone a many band EQ. So there's just one kind of sound that you will get out of these.
Did he say that there's only one kind of sound you get out of these buds? Well, he's wrong. There are two clear sound signatures, one with the mids scooped out with ANC on and one with the mids with ANC off. The difference is quite jarring, and switching to ANC is also quite jarring with a big whoosh effect you hear every time you switch. Overall, it's a big, bold, bassy Bowers sound, and if you love that, well, you'll love these buds.
These buds sound good, sure, very good in fact, and that IP rating and the case as a transmitter feature certainly makes the PI7 S2 stand out. So if you're a Bowers and Wilkins head, sure, these are great, but there are some downsides like we mentioned. We don't really think these are for everyone, especially since we scour and review so many earbuds and we see lower priced buds perform better than these on a few aspects and they have fewer issues. Our budget recommendation is still probably the Earfun Air Pro 2, and there are so many others in the premium segment. Check out this video for a roundup of the best premium buds.
Guys, we bought these buds with our own money, and our philosophy is simple. Try to do the best we can to help you guys make the best decisions. We will never accept money from companies whose products we review. So thanks to you guys for being our real sponsors as patrons or YouTube members.
You've been Scours and Biggins.
And we've been DHRME. Namaste.
Namaste.
Time for the popsicles, icicles, and testimonials. Yeah, what did you think?